now with reaction. The author of the New York Times bestseller, Treason, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. I remember before you became Speaker. Now, I emceed the event at the Cobb Galleria the night you did become Speaker, but in the ensuing weeks before you became Speaker, before you ever did a thing, you were the Gingrich that stole Christmas. And they had, what, Tiny Tim with a broken crutch on Time and Newsweek, didn't they?
That was Time magazine.
Oh, okay.
I was the Grinch that stole Christmas on Newsweek. I was a Dr. Seuss figure.
But you didn't even take office. What did you think of this press conference today? I thought Trump just demolished them.
I think there are a couple of big lessons here that I hope Sean Spicer, the new press secretary, is going to look at very carefully. You know, in baseball, in football, in hockey, in basketball, if certain players behave inappropriately, you kick them out of the game. I think that in hockey, it's fairly common to bench them for a certain amount of time. I think that the way Acosta behaved today for CNN, they ought to suspend him for 60 days. Just say, you know, we'll let CNN send somebody else. But just as a signal, frankly, to all the other reporters that there are going to be real limits. And when you get beyond those limits, you ain't going to be there. I mean, they don't need to put up with this. They shouldn't put up with this. It's bad for the country. I also think that Dan Coates, the new nominated Director of National Intelligence, I hope he's going to go in and bring in a couple of outsiders and really dig through how politicized, how intellectually corrupt, how dishonest the senior levels of the intelligence community have become. I mean, in my lifetime, I can't remember as a public document that the intelligence community produced, not some leak, but you know, they're giving the next president of the United States 2 pages of garbage. I mean, pure garbage.
Mr. Speaker,
and as you did,
yeah, we watched the president, Barack Obama, last night give this revisionism history about his record last night. I came on the air with facts and figures, but I was the only media outlet to do that, and told the American people the truth. Nobody vetted him in 2007 and 2008 as aggressively as I did. It's like I'm doing their job. Nobody tells the truth in the media about how bad Obamacare is and all of the broken promises or any of this record. Do we have an informational crisis, and how should Donald Trump deal with it?
Well, part of it is you have a news media today which fits Nassim Taleb's brilliant essay on intellectual yet idiot. Why would you expect people who don't know any history to be able to report on history? Why would you expect people who are shallow and report only today's exciting story to be followed by tomorrow's exciting story to have any sense of depth or any sense of background? I think part of this is a real crisis of our education system and what's happened in general to our media. But in addition, the White House press corps has this self-importance that the Trump team had better figure out how to break up. There are 500 and some members of the White House press corps. They don't need to have the same 5, 6, 7 people dominate every single day. They can rotate them. They can also extend the privileges to reporters from out of town. Folks would fly in from all over the country to be allowed to be at a briefing, and they'd be a lot more courteous. They'd be a lot more responsible. They wouldn't have this adversarial. I mean, what kind of reporter believes that they are the equal of the President of the United States, and they get to yell at him and lecture him the way we saw in today's press? It's absurd. But it's going to keep going on until steps are taken to remind people there's one person who won the presidency, that's Donald J. Trump, and there are a lot of people who are voyeurs who are watching the one person who won the presidency. They're not equals. And we got to go back to an understanding that they ain't equals.
You know, so while we were giving out the truth of what really happened in the last 8 years, which would be wiped out in pretty short order, let me just give you some of the examples of the morning coverage. The thrill up the leg, if you will, is back. And I would argue didn't even go away for 8 years. Take a look.
He was played off stage tonight by the Bruce Springsteen song Land of Hope and Dreams. And that nicely summarized a large part of his theme tonight.
I watched the speech that got me thrilled physically, as everybody laughed at me for, because it did get me thrilled physically. He was soaring, and it was as good a speech as this, but of course it was before This is after. And it's much harder to do it after.
I think this whole speech was poignant in a way and very graceful way for a president of the United States to exit.
Add to that WikiLeaks and all of these major news organizations colluding with Hillary Clinton. These are significant problems, and a truth has now been exposed. Journalism's dead. Did Donald Trump bury them today?
Well, he didn't bury him today, but he certainly, I think, began to draw the lines for the fight that's coming. You know, you don't have to think of the New York Times or CNN or any of these people as news organizations. They're mostly propaganda organizations, and they're going to be after Trump every single day of his presidency, and he needs to understand that that's the case, and so does Sean Spicer in speaking for him. And they simply need to go out there and understand they have it in their power to set the terms of this dialogue. They can close down the elite press. They can create totally new venues for informing the American people. They can go to Facebook and to YouTube and to Skype, and they can have average citizens asking questions. You know, I think you'd have a much richer dialogue if you broke up the monopoly of the elite news media and this kind of incestuous attitude that they have the right to yell at the President of the United States.
Well,
which, by the way, as you point out, they never did to Obama.
No, they were asking him if he was enchanted.
He was there.
If he was enchanted.
Right.
You ever get a question like that? Were you enchanted? I've never.
You know, I actually like Jeff Zeleny as a person.
Yeah.
But that scene is hysterical.
I know.
I mean, that could be in a bad movie.
It's in a bad movie. And I get criticized. It's unbelievable. All right, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for being with us.